Hello, welcome to Townsend 909, featuring Bryers Music Showcase. Today's the 10th episode of the Byrds Discography Deep Dive, or just me and Bryers' journey through the Byrds discography. Today's episode, Byrdmaniax. Have anything to say before we start reviewing this?
All right, so this is the 10th album, and yeah, this album's kind of came because the previous two albums, they did fairly well, a lot better than than they've had in a while, and so they were kind of just banking on that. And by this point, they were touring a lot, and the touring started to take its toll on them because they really didn't have that much time to really perfect the songs that they had. And yeah, it kind of, and a lot of critics at the time said it really showed, because this one did not do as well as the previous album. Actually, got a lot of negative reviews, didn't chart very well, and even caused some contention between the band and their producer Terry Melcher because he had some strings without the band's consent. So I believe, if I remember correctly, this is the last album they worked with Terry Melcher before they decided to go their separate ways. But yeah, does this album deserve its reputation? We'll see. We'll find out.
Yep, indeed. We're going to start off with the very first track, Glory, Glory.
All right. So, is this a good opener based on the others? Yeah. However, I will say this is probably my least favorite of their openings. It's still good. It's still nice. I still really enjoy some of the stuff. I love the bass playing on here. I think there's some great piano work as well. Thing is, it's not as immediate as some of the previous opening tracks. This one took a bit for me to actually took a while for me to get into, but it's just very solid opening. It's thing is again, it's good, but again, comparing to all the other openings we've had, this is definitely one that probably go one of my least favorites, and it definitely shows that there's something off feels off about this album.
Yeah. Would you consider it to be part of the continuing of the good openers, or would you consider it to be this sort of sort of stop that consecutive great openers?
I think it just barely. I think I barely put it in the good one of the good openers, but it's definitely a big step down.
Yes, and I agree. This opener is definitely shows like most of the album openers, even on my least favorite of the first six Birds albums, 5D. Even that album opened up real strong. But yeah, not a really good way of to show what's going to come up on the rest of the album. Next song though, Pale Blue.
All right, so this was a good follow up, and yeah, this was a collaboration with McGuinn and Gene Parsons. This was I I really enjoyed the strings on it. I know the band were kind of didn't really want the strings, but I think the strings actually kind of helped in this song. And I tend to be a sucker for strings, so I didn't really I like the additions here. It's just very pretty. It's supposed to have like this mood of freedom and also security. I liked McGuinn's vocal on this track, and I like the harmonica. And to most critics, this was considered the best song on the album. And yeah, I would kind of agree with that. This is definitely one of the standout songs from this album for me.
I agree. It's definitely the standout of the album. I'm not gonna tell you where it's on my list, but it definitely stands out compared to the rest of the album.
Hmm.
But on first listen, that is. Next song on the album, I Trust.
All right, this was purely written by McGuinn. It's basically based on a saying McGuinn tend to say a lot, which, if I remember correctly, he would say, "I trust everything's gonna be all right," or something like that. This one's pretty all right. It's fine. Has a huge gospel influence, which I guess they were kind of into a little bit. But this one was just kind of, I just found it a bit run of the mill. I still like it, but yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say about it.
I actually quite like this song. Definitely one of the better songs that McGuinn written on himself by himself. But I could see where you're coming from with the stuff that you said. But I think this is a really good song on the album.
Okay.
It's quite good. Much better than the first track, I must say, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Tunnel of Love.
All right, we have a Skip Batten, the bass player. He comes in with a song. This was, I mean, this is like he has like 3 songs on this album, and I'm just gonna. This was kind of the start where things start to go down for me. This is, I mean, this one is okay. And the problem is it's very novelty sounding, and I think it's been well documented. I've never been a huge fan of when the Byrds go novelty. It just kind of feels off. This song was supposed to be like a homage to Fats Domino, which you can kind of hear. But yeah, I think it's starting to kind of move away to the Byrds sound a bit too much. Um, I just, and also another thing I kind of bugs me. I think it goes on a bit too long. I feel like it goes on it goes on longer than it should have. And I just don't think it goes anywhere. It sounds nice, but after like this is one of the longer songs, so after going on for that long, I was kind of expecting to change up, but it doesn't really do it. But again, it's okay. But yeah, not one of my favorites.
That's fair. I actually quite like it. I
Okay.
like when bands sort of. I like when they pay homages to people. Like, I mean, you're watching the same, or you're talking to the same person who loves the Crunch and Hot Dog by Led Zeppelin.
Okay, yeah, that's
So
fair.
keep that in mind when I say that.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love when bands do that. Like when they play tribute to like either an influence or just the artist from back then that played a big influence on others. Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. It does go on for a teensy bit long, but for a good song like this, it doesn't bother me all too much.
Okay. All right, I see you.
Citizen Kane closes out the first side.
All right. Citizen Kane, another Skip Batten song. And this was supposed to be a dig at Hollywood life. And no joke, the first thing I wrote on my notes was, oh no. uh, I mean, this is like probably the most novelty the Birds have ever gotten. Like, I honestly did not really enjoy this song that much. Um, th- I thought the last one didn't sound like the Birds, but this one really doesn't sound like the Birds at all. Like, I can't tell. Again, it's supposed to be like comedic, but again, it's just doesn't really work for me when they try to do something like that. And Skip Batten, he's an alright singer, but and I think I think I've liked a couple of the stuff he did on the previous album, but here I think he's going a bit too far. But yeah, this was not good in my opinion.
I can see where you're coming from. I don't hate it that much. It's not a song where I'm like, oh, this exists. Like I can see where you're coming from though. I will say this first side definitely like the bookends, like the first and last song on this side are extremely weak in my opinion
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to the 3 songs in between.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I agree with you on this song. Yeah, it's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not horrible. Like it's not like it's no hats off to Roy Harper or anything like that. But it's not a song where I'm gonna listen to it. It's a skip track
Yeah, same here.
most of the time. Side 2 opens up with "I want to grow up to be a politician."
Oh boy. So here McGuinn's back, and this is actually another song from his abandoned musical he wanted to do. Um, and I've liked the ones, and I, of course, he did this before on the previous album where he included some of those songs from that, and I've really enjoyed the songs that were on the previous album. For this one, this is not the only one, but of the ones that are included on this one, this is probably my least favorite, and probably my least favorite of the musical tracks. It's basically just the main character running wanting to run for office and something like that. So, it has a ragtime feel. It's a bit goofy. I guess that was supposed to be like a more comedic song again. But there's a little effect on McGuinn's vocals, which is I'm kind of split on. But yeah, this one's not too bad. But it's okay.
I agree. It's not horrible. It's a heck of a lot better than the last track
Mm,
because at least I'd rather take showtimey goofy songs than like comedic songs than you know novelty songs that don't sound at at all like what the band was.
hmm
This wasn't bad, but yeah, not a good flow of songs so far.
No.
Absolute Happiness is the next song though.
All right, so another Skip Batten song, and at least this one's a bit more serious. It's not as out there as the other two other songs he contributed. It's supposed to have a Buddhist influence, which I think there's some Buddhist chanting. I think if I remember correctly. I again I liked it better than, of course I liked them better than the other ones. I like the organ on here. The guitar sounds pretty good. Um, Again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying with Ton of Love. I think even though this is pretty good, I still think it's a bit run of the mill, at least comparatively to as a whole. But again, it was still enjoyable, so I don't really hate that much. So yes, it's not bad. I like it.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite of the three songs he presented to the band for this album. Yeah, I actually really quite like this song. Definitely a good way to break up those last two songs that were on the album. Like
Mm,
broke up that flow of just mediocre / not so good songs. So
mhm.
yeah, it's definitely great comparably like amongst the 11 songs on this album. Like this is great, but if I'm like comparing it to like songs from like I don't know this album,
Mm,
it's just gonna lack. But
right.
on this album, I think it's great. But if it was recorded for this album, it'd be my least favorite. So
Right. Yeah.
that's a good way to put a perspective on. Like my favorite song on this album wouldn't even be on my top 50 favorite Bird songs. So
Yeah. Probably not. Maybe.
so
Maybe not. Probably not me either.
and I'm saying my favorite song on this album, not like one of like my favorite song on this album wouldn't even be on my top 50 songs list. So yeah, definitely the weakest album in their discography. I feel like we're gonna both agree on that. Who knows?
Mm,
Uh, who knows? Maybe this album or maybe an album before it might be Bryers' least favorite, but this album, even my least favorite of the first six Byrds albums, 5D, even that had like a front loaded first side
oh yeah. Yeah.
and had 8 Miles High on it. This album doesn't even have a Hey Joe on it. That's how weak it is. Is that like Hey Joe, the weak cover from on that album? Like this album doesn't even have that on it. Like
Mm.
yeah, Green Apple Quick Step.
All right. So this is Gene Parsons, the drummer, and Clarence White, which is actually, I think this is the first of this run of albums where I've not mentioned Clarence White at all. And that's because he's like barely present on this album. Either I'm having a hard time hearing him, but this is his time to shine for a little bit. And it's a bluegrass instrumental. Yeah, yeah, you kind of know how I feel about instrumentals on a mainly vocal album. But again, the playing is great, but is this something I'm going to go back to very often on its own? Probably not. But again, the playing is still very solid, so I can't really hate that much. So yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, I actually disagree with you. I actually think this is one of the weaker. Like, not I don't really like this at all. Honestly, I'm not gonna tell you what if it's my least favorite or not, but it's definitely
Mhm.
low on the songs list.
Yeah, I mean, it's low for me too because of
Yeah.
course it's instrumental. It's kind of by default it has to be low, but yeah,
Mhm.
I know I can hear where you're coming from.
I'm a fan of instrumentals mostly, but this instrumental to me was just a bore fest the entire time, and I'm not into bluegrass, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that might be. Yeah, that's a good reason.
not a fan of it. My Destiny.
Right, so this is a cover. You have Clarence White on lead vocals. This is another pretty, I guess it's a solid song. Piano has some good piano. It's kind of a more slower country song, which I'm kind of hit or miss on those types of songs. Um, but I think the piano was enough to keep my attention. So again, this was more run of the mill, but it was still okay. So it was nice, I guess.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna agree with what you said.
Mm,
It's a middle of the road. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's just mediocre.
hmm
Song I do want to talk about though is Kathleen's song.
Oh yeah. This is now we get to we're back to finally good. We're actually back to a actual good song. This was a one of the another song from the musical, and basically it's the main female lead. Plus, I guess she's singing about the main character, I guess. But yeah, this was originally supposed to be on the previous album, but it got shifted to this album.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think this was a really, really pretty song. Again, the strings on this sound really nice, and I like the vocals on here. And yeah, this ended up being another. This actually was a good standout track on this album. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
I actually agree with you. It's definitely it just barely went into my top 5 favorite songs on this album, but man, is it a great song.
Mm-hmm.
And I could definitely tell the quality of this song's better than the besides the other 4 songs I think are better. The majority of the album,
Mm-hmm.
the quality of it. So when you said that, I'm not that surprised that it was going to be on the other album,
Mm-hmm.
Ballad of Easy Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last song on the album, Jamaica, Say You Will.
All right, so this is actually an interesting one. I actually was kind of surprised because I saw the title and was like, that title seems familiar. And actually, when I looked it up, it turns out it was actually written by Jackson Brown, who was a pretty well-known singer-songwriter. And this was actually he actually wrote this. This was during the time where he was still kind of unknown. Not many people knew who he was, but the Byrds did their. He kind of gave this song to them, and of course Jackson would do his own version on his debut album. I think in 1972 that came out. So it was kind of interesting to hear a early version of what became Jackson's version. I still prefer the Jackson Brown's version, but I think the Byrds did a solid job on this one. I think this is a really good song. Again, Clarence White finally gets his time to shine a little bit on his guitar. On this track, his guitar playing is pretty good. Sounds really nice. Definitely has a chill, but still engaging vibe to me. And I just think this was a solid way to close out this album. So yeah, I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, definitely a lot better than some of their other even on their early 6 albums like like 5D and turn not turn to turn but that album it's a heck of a lot. I actually would say it's a heck of a lot better than songs like the Weird Jet song or whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely. No doubt about that.
So if I was ranking the closing tracks, this would be higher than some of them, but yeah,
Mm,
it's good. It's a decent way of ending the album, but I've heard a lot better closers like Why from Younger Than
yeah.
Yesterday,
Mm,
and in my
right.
opinion, Space Odyssey. But that's when our opinion starts to differ.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. 5 favorite songs, a dishonorable song, and album rating.
All right. Okay, so my top 5 songs, and number 5, it barely got in the top 5, but I went with I Trust. Number 4, I have Glory Glory. Number 3, Kathleen Song. Number 2, Jamaica Say You Will. And number 1 is Pale Blue. And for my dishonorable track, it really can flip flop between two. I think like it's either between Green Apple, Quick Step, or Citizen Kane. I think I think by technicality, I think I'm gonna go for my dismount for last place. I'm gonna go with Citizen Kane because I think it just strays way too far from the bird sound. But besides that, in terms of my rating, um, I think as of right now, this is by far their weakest album. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but yeah, they were touring a lot. They didn't have time. This album just felt rushed. They just didn't have the time to really perfect a lot of these songs, and it really, in the result, just showed. And so, it might be generous, but I think I'm gonna give this probably 5 out of 10 because I think my top five was enough to give it at least a 5, but the remaining songs just ranged from forgettable to just plain not great. So yeah, 5 out of 10.
That's a fair score. My top 5 would be Kathleen's song. Number 4 would be Tunnel of Love. Number 3 would be Absolute Happiness. Number 2 would be Pale Blue, and my favorite would be I Trust. And the ensemble song would be Citizen Kane. That song is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I'd say, well, I've heard some not so good songs like Learjet song and
Right.
the last song on Ballad of Easy Rider, but this to me is their worst song that they
Yeah,
made.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think objectively, I think it's definitely I'd rather hear the Learjet song
Because
than
at least the
Citizen Kane.
Learjet song,
At least has a catchy melody,
yeah,
the
it's
Learjet part
catchy
that
and
catchy.
it doesn't go on for that long. Like it's just
Yeah.
like it's like a minute and a half or two of and like if it was like a minute longer, then I'd say that's their worst song. But
Mm-hmm.
this song that song isn't as offensive as this
Yeah.
one. But yeah, my album rating would be a 6 out of 10. Probably because
Okay.
of my favorite 2 songs on the album. Those 2 songs carry it on its shoulders.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah. Not good. Not good at all. I'm gonna have no secrets to knowing this is their worst album. This is like I told Breyer that all their albums are at least halfway decent. Like none of them are like bad. This is the closest album for me to say it's kind of bad. Like it's bordering there, but I'm like, there's enough good songs on it for me to still enjoy it for what it is. But we
Yeah.
do go on. In my opinion, we do get on a better path on further along their 11th album, and the last 2 albums are going to be nowhere near as bad as that one. I wouldn't even consider it to be a bad album. It's just not as good. Like those 2 albums bringing them back on track. Like if you're like, oh, like hopefully this isn't where they're going with this, but no, don't worry. The last 2 albums more than make up for this album.
All right. Cool.
Anything you would like to say before I close out?
Bottom line, if you are gonna listen to every Byrds album, and if you want a Byrds if you want like a must buy Byrds album, this album is, I would say, is that essential.
Yeah, it's not. I'd say this is definitely their least essential album. Like in terms of listening to, in terms of buying it, especially buying it. I would stay. Like the only reason why I have the CDs because I had a 5 CD thing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I'll never buy this on record. Just to be clear. Even my second least favorite Byrds album, which I'm not going to mention now, but even my second least favorite Byrds album, I'll have on vinyl just to have it. But I wouldn't say this is the Mardi Gras, but this is definitely a huge step down from what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like they were going on the right track with Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde, and they were doing a really great job on Ballad of Easy Rider. So,
and even Untitled too.
Yeah, even Untitled as well. Like they were just getting better and better, in my opinion. And this album really sinks them lower, which is a shame because they're capable of making great albums. And
oh yeah, definitely.
The last 3 albums we reviewed, like I just mentioned, that those prove that they can make great albums without the main lineup. So, well, anyway, that's all. That'll be all for today. Oh. Jason,
Oh,
How are you
Jason.
doing? Good, Jason. How
Yeah,
about you?
pretty good. I'm a little tired from work, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, you got us at the worst time, and we were just about to finish up. Yeah, yeah, Jason. Well, if you watch the video, you'll know that me and Bryers do not recommend this album.
Yeah, don't waste your time on this one.
Yeah, if you want to listen to all of them, be my guest. But unless you want to go, unless you want to listen to all the albums, this is an absolute unmust.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay. Yep. There we go.
If you're gonna listen to more Byrds albums, well, I think you listened to this one already. But listen to this. Listen, these are the essentials. These are the ones you gotta listen to. Even the ones after Crosby left the band, and Sweethearts of the Rodeo, Dr. Birch and Mr. Hyde, Ballad of Easy Rider, Untitled. Like those are good albums. This is like the only album that even the next two which still not the best of the best, but definitely a heck of a lot better than that. But okay, I'm gonna end the broadcast now. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yes, I am a little not obsessed, but this has been the only thing I've been recording lately. Don't worry, once this video is over, once this series is over, I'll probably not talk about the Byrds for a very long time.
Right.